All right, sweet. So I want to welcome you guys again to another episode of the Pre-Eminent Sales Pro podcast. Of course, my name is Pierre Gooch, and this podcast is really dedicated to help you discover the mindsets, the methods, and the mechanisms designed to be a preeminent sales pro. Now, what is a preeminent sales pro? A preeminent sales pro is a sales pro who's top of mind. He's at the forefront of his industry. He is the person that you think of when you go into any offer. It's like, man, every guy must be the top performer on this offer. So I have with me, I believe, the personification, right, of a perimeter sales pro, the one and only Drewbie Wilson. Do I call you Andrew or Drewbie is fine?
Oh, Drewbie is what my friends call me. The only guys that call me Andrew are the government and teachers in school. And since I didn't last very long in school and we're friends, Pierre, you can call me Drewbie, brother.
That's right. That's right. There we go. So Drewbie Wilson, man, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I think that first of all, I've seen you around. I think I've been around you for quite some time, my friend. I think you have one of the strongest personal brands, probably one of the most interesting characters I've seen in the space. There are a lot of people who do personal branding, but I think you were I think the only ones who kind of made it their own. Everything from, developing, making memes a really, really strong thing in the sales industry to being able to do now call the damn leads, which I think is like an absolutely clever title. Um, I can't wait to talk about this. So like, for those of you who may not know who Drewbie Wilson is, I'll give him an opportunity to introduce himself if he wants to do so. But like Drewbie Wilson has been in pretty much every industry you can think of, and then some. Like he's an outbound follow-up master, and he's amazing on the phone. And I think you'll get a chance to hear, even if he gets on a call with today, he gets to communicate. Like he has a really, really genuine desire to help other people, man. And I think that's a really, really thing that's missing in a lot of sales pros, man. So again, welcome.
Thank you,
Um,
Pierre. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. So, like, how does Drewbie Wilson get into sales, man?
Oh, brother. So my sales journey started when I was a young man. I was actually kind of grew up in the streets, selling anything and everything I could get my hands on.
All
My
right.
mom and I always used to joke that I was a commodities relocation specialist, meaning if it was
I
something you
like that.
wanted, I could probably find it. It would, legal, illegal, statute of limitations, knock
Mm-hmm.
on wood. I'm not in that life anymore, thank
Mm-hmm.
goodness.
Thank
But I
goodness.
grew up in the streets selling everything, man. And truth be told, I got very lucky and blessed that I didn't end up dead or in prison. And along the way, I ended up kind of stumbling into a few different sales jobs. And funny enough, I always had a bit of a dislike for salespeople. Even still now,
Mm.
there's a certain type of sales avatar that just, it's not me. I don't like the pushy. I don't like the hardcore closer. Gotta be like, get it done or buy or die mentality. While I understand there's a necessity to hunt, to go out to feed your family, and sales is no different, I also like to think that for me, I prefer a more service based type of sale. I just want to
Mm.
show up, I want to help people, I want to know that whether we end up working together or not, after our conversation, you're going to walk away a better person, more educated, more ready to make better decisions in your own life. And so that to me is how I like to approach sales.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not for everybody, but it's worked pretty well for me over the years. I've been able to generate, somewhere north of like 15 plus $1 million in
Wow.
sales, but
Wow.
at an average transaction rate of around, $5,000. So, some people are like, well, 15 million may not be that much, but it's all perspective. And that again is another topic we'll get into about success, because success is perspective. What I see will be
Mm.
different than Pierre. What you see is definitely going to be different than what the listener sees. And what I love is that we can all use sales as a tool and a skill set to create success in our lives. And that's what I've been able to do in, like you said, a number of different industries. So I've sold, like I said, I grew up in the streets selling a little bit of everything, but tobacco, furniture, insurance. I did some real estate flipping sales stuff with guys, helping them kind of dialing in some things. I've sold our
Mm-hmm.
own properties, helping working on that with our real estate agents. I mean, I've been working with clients in a number of different industries over the last 5 years, especially. And so when it comes to sales, the one quote that I like to lean in on was from a previous mentor. He said, methods are many, principles are few. Methods
Mm,
may vary, but principles never do. So it's kind of
that's
like, hey,
good.
there's a million ways to make $1 million. Pick one, trust the process, and if you do it long enough, the money will follow.
How did you get into that? Like, how did you get into that way of thinking? Because I think that for the most part, I don't want to say that. I think that there are salespeople in the world who do still have like this kind of buy or die shark based mentality, trying to sell anything that breathes, even at the cost or the expense of the prospect. So, like, what is this formation of like this service based mindset of thinking like, and how do you see that kind of play out in your day to day kind of activities?
So it's hard to pinpoint where I originally had a service-based like mentality. I think I always just kind of grew up appreciating people that took care of
Mm.
other people because you can read in my first book, we had kind of a rough upbringing, so it was always a little tough. And so we, as a
Does that crush
family, we
today?
just, yes, sir, in crushing the day. I got it here somewhere.
Yeah.
That was my first book. I wrote that 3 years ago. And I got two more that we'll talk about on the journey here. But I've always appreciated good service. And for me, one thing I've always known is that if I got hard sold something, typically it makes me feel guilty, shameful. I have buyer's remorse more times than not. And it's usually because I felt coerced into making a decision versus feeling as though I made the decision for myself. And
Mhm.
from a sales perspective, I think this is very important is a prospect really feels better about the transaction when they think they've made the decision, not that you helped them make the decision for them that they didn't really want to make.
Mhm. Can you give me an example of maybe something from your own life and history where someone tried to hard sell you versus maybe a salesperson or a person who did more of a service-based service for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of how I ended up in the marketing world to begin
Is
with.
that right?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when I was selling insurance, was trying to learn marketing, right? Because I was a
Mhm.
pretty good sales professional, and I learned that at some point you can be really great at sales, but you still need to have people to talk to sell stuff.
Mm, that's
And
good,
again,
man. That's good.
I made a lot of cold calls. I would have a lot of conversations. And so to me, it was more about how can I get a targeted prospect that I know has a specific need for what we offer and also will fit within the ideal client avatar.
Mm,
Because, yeah, you might be able to sell insurance to everyone, but not everyone is a good candidate for your insurance product.
very true.
Or, same thing can be applied in just about any industry. It could be in real estate. You may say you want to be a luxury real estate agent, but if all you're getting is mobile homes over on the West End, that may not be luxury. So you have to have that brand congruence and you have to make sure that your marketing message is specifically catered to the type of client who is a good fit for your product and service and will be a qualified client so that when you have that conversation you have a better chance to proceed with the transaction by helping them because you know specifically that you can help them based on what products and services you offer.
Right.
And so to kind of get back to the story there, I was selling insurance and I was like, how do I get more leads?
Hmm.
There was these guys that I seen online that were kind of popular. And I
Hmm.
said, all right, well, fellas, I want to learn how to do this. What's that look like? I was a lead. So they called me and they're like, cool, this is what it looks like. It's going
Hmm.
to cost $1,500. You got to buy it right now. I was like, well,
Ah.
fellas, just to be fair with you, I don't have $1,500. I'm a producer. I make like 2 grand a month and then I make commissions. So
Mm,
like I'm trying to help the whole agency, but let me go talk to the boss. If he's into it, we'll set it up. And they're
mhm.
like, well, nah, man, you got to sign up right now. You got to sign up right now. And I was like, well, fellas, I cannot literally, like, I don't have the funds for that. At this point in my journey, I just didn't have it. So I went to the boss. I had a conversation with him, was like, this is what I want to do, yada, yada. And he kind of shut me down and said, nah, man, just go make some more cold calls, go send
Of
some more
course.
mailers, like
Of
do the
course.
things that we know. All
Of
right,
course.
well. So I called the guys back that were trying to hard sell me and I said, listen, I'm gonna pay for this out of my pocket. I'm not exactly sure how I'm gonna make it work, but like this is the deal. Are you sure it's gonna work? And they're like, yeah, we know it'll work, but you're too late. you're not going to get the slot. You should have signed up the day we sold you. You missed your opportunity. Sucks to be you.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. All right. Yeah, exactly. Like, okay.
That's rough.
And I get a little bit of a chip on my shoulder sometimes. And so I was like, all right, well, guys, I'm going to figure this shit out because that's just who I am as a person.
Yeah.
And so on that same time, I was on Facebook in these different groups, learning marketing, trying to understand how to get more leads and build our business and our brand. And I ended up signing up for a software company that was $200 for the year as one of the first 200 beta users. And it was basically just building landing pages or sales funnels, as some of you may know them as, to collect information so that you could generate your own leads. And I was like, this is all I need to do. Let's go. Started learning lead generation, built a couple funnels, ended up becoming, my own marketing guy, generated my own leads, made my own money. And by doing that, by, basically saying, not being able to be hard close because I didn't like hard closing to begin with, but then being turned away, I ended up learning how to do this for myself and getting to a point where other agents in our market said, hey, you're doubling your production. You're one of the top guys. What are you doing? And is it legal? Because, of course. I was like, well, yeah, of course it's legal, guys. Of course. Like, I learned how to get these leads on Facebook. I'll show you how to do it. And they're like, no. I don't have time to learn that. Maybe. Well, I mean, it's so funny enough, the information that I was getting long form insurance leads with people's name, address, date of birth, their kids' names, their kind of vehicles, VIN numbers. I mean, I was getting a lot of personal information off these people for, the offer of, hey, if you get a quote, I'll give you a baseball ticket and you can go to a baseball game at a local. It was awesome. A weird, anyways, different story, awesome. Different day.
Wow.
But that is like, because someone tried to hard close me and then didn't end up letting me buy from them after saying no the first time, it was a lesson learned for me there, and also pushed me into that point where I ended up charging all these insurance agents a couple grand to set up these marketing accounts, which made me more money in a weekend doing part-time work than I'd ever made full-time selling insurance. So that's how I ended up starting a marketing company, because I didn't like being hard closed.
Let me ask you this about that, because, kind of looking back on that situation, what do you think they could have done differently to kind of sell you or service you better at that time?
I mean, truthfully, it would have been one follow-up call. Like, all that's what it would have been. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll tell you why I say this is because I think that I think that salespeople in general, especially people who've been cultured and trained to be closers instead of more sales professionals, to them, the close is all that matters, right? And there's no way that they don't have a grid for being able to keep the door open while still holding the frame of this is a great opportunity. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I'll counter that with there are some times where that's necessary.
Okay.
Staying in your lane and being an expert at what you do is very, very important. And I think very few people in the world have the ability to operate on both sides of that coin.
Okay.
And so I think there is sometimes a necessity for like the closer, and the closer does what the closer does, because sometimes there are people that need that person to inspire them or motivate them to make a decision. They're still making the decision themselves. And that's what makes a great closer, is someone who can be that person and still translate that energy to the prospect. Sometimes, though, those guys aren't great at follow-up because they're just closers. So you have to build a system or a team around them to be successful.
Right.
It's very few people in the world who can be a one-man operation or one-lady operation that can do sales, that can do follow-up, that can do service. And usually those are the individuals like you and I that go on to build businesses and do more than just close deals. Because you can't ask a closer to be a service person. But you can have a business owner that understands all sides of it.
That's good. That's
you know
good,
what I'm saying?
Man.
That can be a dangerous in any field, but also recognizes that there are people who can be more specifically catered to that. Hopefully that makes sense.
Good. That is good. It's like the idea of like, I remember this one guy, he said, he says some parts, there's, you know, everything that you do, there's some part of you that actually enjoys that thing, right? Like there's some part of you that enjoys washing the dishes. I haven't found that guy yet, right? But I take his word for it, say it's there. But there's some part of you for everything that you do. Let's say admin work for the salesperson. There's some part of you that enjoys that, almost needs that part of you. But you have to know how to tap into those things and even shift identities as necessary. I know you talked about like building on a follow-up process and things like that. You talked about that even with the company that you had the unfortunate experience with the marketing thing, that one follow-up call would have made the difference, right? But how would they have opened that door for you to say, okay, we'll go ahead and maybe, I don't know, how would they position the follow-up call? I think it would be a better way to ask that.
Yeah, I mean, so in that situation specifically, again,
Mm-hmm.
I was a young producer. I literally just didn't have the funds on hand at the
Mm-hmm.
moment. So I said, well, cool, I'm gonna go to the guy that has them. I was being resourceful, like, cool, let me go see if I can get the funds so that I can start this process. And they didn't want to wait. They wanted that money right now. They wanted a commitment. And I can respect that to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if they'd have just given me 48 hours to go and get the money, I probably would have called them back and paid in full and figured it out myself. Because again,
Yes.
that's the kind of person I am.
Mm-hmm.
One simple, like, hey, man, we'll give you 48 hours to take action on this, or this
I
opportunity is
see.
going to go away. All right, cool, man. That means I got 48 hours to hustle it up and make it happen. And a
Yes.
hustler will go and make it happen. And that's where I think you can put opportunities in place for people, provide that extra level of service. Cause it's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
listen, man, normally we don't do this, right? But I'm going to make an exception for you
Mm-hmm.
because I think you're a great person and I love your mentality and you're the kind of person that I
Yes.
truly think will come in, learn, implement, and be a great case study. So all I'm going to
Yes.
ask is, if I give you 48 hours, you're giving me your word that you're going to do this. And when we see these incredible results, you're going to come back and do a testimonial and share
Come
your journey.
on.
Is that fair?
That's good. That's good. Making them feel special, right? Making them feel special. Like, hey, don't, I see your worth. I see that you're going to be a person who's going to take the action. So you and I are going to bet on you together, and this is what we're going to do next, right? I
Easy.
really, really like that. That's really, really good. Really, really good. And also, that kind of speaks to an older truth about like the multiple levels of commitment. Sometimes you can't get a paid in full. Maybe you can get a payment plan. Maybe you can't get a payment plan. Maybe you can get a deposit. Maybe you can get like a commitment to close, like you just described a few minutes ago, where I'm going to give you a space of time, and then at the expiration of that time frame, we're going to then take the next form of commitment. So the many ways to do it if you know what you're doing. Very good, very, very good. Now, sales pros. Sometimes I've heard people try to position that sales and marketing are almost at odds with each other. Um, but I like the fact that the way that you thought about it was, this is a new problem I have to solve. And a lot of salespeople do fall into this trap of saying, oh, there aren't any leads, or there aren't any good leads right now. And let's say that there are some, every business goes through like seasons of plenty and a bit of like, I don't want to say absolute famine, but like they go what's a bit scarce, right? The wheat is not always
Mm-hmm.
there, right? So what are some fundamental things that you can share with them to start moving into generating their own leads for
So I
business?
think, yeah, this is a great, and this is what separates an order taker from a sales professional. An
Okay.
order taker is someone who has to rely on the food to show up on their plate or for the opportunity to be in their lap for them to do anything.
Mm,
And again, there is a need for order takers in your business, for someone that
yes.
can just take information, input it in a system, and follow the process.
Hmm.
However, those individuals, they reach a point where it's like, okay, you can only make X amount based on the opportunity present as an order taker. If you
Mm,
only get 2 leads a day and that's all that you ever see, well, then guess what? If you're not a hell of a closer, you're gonna be hungry. If you only got 2 leads a day and you're not doing anything else to generate more opportunity, that's
mm,
fine if you want to settle. But most people reach a point where they go, all right, I'm making 1,000 a month, 2,000 a month, 3,005, 8, 9, whatever that number is. And they're like, well, like I want to make more. and I don't have enough leads, I'm not having enough conversations to be able to close these deals. And at a certain point, you only have a X closing ratio. Nobody closes 100% of their deals. And even if it's way, way high, like you close 75% of the people you talk to, well, if you only talk to one person a day, that's not creating enough opportunity for growth. So
Right.
you get to where marketing becomes a necessity for sales. You
Yes.
have to have more individuals who you can have a conversation with, pre-qualified to decide, are they a good fit for your product or service, and then move them through the sales process, through the different lead stages, right? Either
Yes.
they're a new lead that you haven't had a conversation with yet, or they're a lead that you have spoken with. They're either qualified, disqualified. If they're
Yes.
qualified, what's the next step? Have you made them an offer? Are you putting them in position to actually use your product or service? If not, then what are we doing to reach that next stage? This is all part of the process. And marketing is essentially planting seeds. If you want to go back to the old school of like, hey, if you're a farmer, if you don't go plant any seeds, well, guess what? You're not going to have anything to harvest.
Gonna start,
Now,
bro.
the farmer understands like, hey, not only do I have to go plant these seeds, but now I have to nurture them. I have to take care of them. I have to protect them. And as a sales professional, your job is to either go out and plant seeds or understand how to go and procure more seeds to be planted, which is going and having conversations, putting yourselves in the right room, having the, like, if you're a hunter, you can't just sit on your front porch and shoot everything that walks by. Because if you do, you, like you said, Pierre, you may go days, weeks, months and not see anything, depending on your location. And as a sales professional, location's important. If you're not in the right rooms with the right people having the right conversations, you're not likely to be making sales, which is going to leave you very hungry.
Exactly. So what are the different ways that like a sales pro working within the confines of a company can generate leads? Like what are some like ways they could do that?
So that is where my second book, Social Media Mastery, came into play. Because I'm an introvert by nature, meaning I like to kind of be by myself. I like to do my own thing. I'm also very much a high integrator. So I like the behind the scenes systems and processes.
Wow.
And also, I've always been forced to be more on the outgoing side, to be more visionary, because I've learned that in order to be great at what I do and helping people, I have to go and find people to talk to see if I can help them.
Yes.
And most individuals, this is why personal branding is so important, because most of us are just using Facebook, Instagram, YouTube as an escape from reality versus using it as an intentional tool to get in front of the right audience of people, to have the right conversations so that you can take them down the right path to success. Because, hey, guess what? If your ultimate goal is to connect with other people who are like-minded and may need your product or service, there are no better ways or resources that exist than social media right now.
Yes.
Like even if you went to the grocery store and talked to every single person in the grocery store because they're in your quote local market, it's not likely that majority of them are going to want to talk to you. And even the ones who do, they're probably going to be a slim chance that they need your product or service. Even as an insurance agent, again, we go back to, are they a qualified lead? Well, using social media, guess what you can do? You can be having those conversations that you would be having with an individual. Who are you? Where you're from? Tell me, XYZ conversation to figure out if you're a good fit or not. Would you even be interested in working together? You can have that conversation hundreds of times or thousands of times a day by posting them on social media and building a content process and more of a brand than if you were to just try and go and talk to one person at a time. So it's instead of going one-to-one, social media allows you to connect with people and network in a one-to-many fashion, which is when you're creating the right kind of content, going to continue attracting the right individuals. And when you understand social media as a tool, you can actually leverage the algorithm or the supercomputer to help connect you with more individuals that are like the people you want to connect with, because they're utilizing all of us as big advertising plots. So the longer we're on their platform, the more money they make. And knowing that, you now can go create content on these platforms that will keep you popular and get you engagement from the people who you can help.
So the first thing is, so the big kind of thing will be social media is going to be one of the best places you can do as a sales pro working within a comp. But here's the thing though, and I think this is something that I find interesting. Is like when when you are a sales pro, like do you think it's important for them to have a personal page and a, let's say they're working with an offer, like they have like a separate one for their offer and one for their personal? Or do you feel like there's a integration that should be going on?
So this is a two-part answer because I kind of
Okay.
got a little off topic with your original question about someone who works with it. Like I get excited. This is the thing though, man. I get so passionate and I get excited about this, but here's what I know. People do business with people, and they do business with people that they know, that they like, and that they trust.
Okay.
And so from the perspective of social media, these platforms were designed so that other individuals could live vicariously through the stories that we tell. And if you
Mm.
want to be honest with you, it's for dudes to creep on ladies, because the guys who built it were a bunch of nerds and they were trying to check out all the women in their schools. And so, like, again, just going back to the lizard brain of understanding this is society and this is how it works. Well, guess what? I'm going to create content that's educational and entertaining because I know that's what people are looking for. They want to go online to see things that are funny, which is why I tattooed Meme Lord on my knuckles and I use
Mm.
memes to close sales. That's a whole nother conversation. But as a professional working within a business,
Mm-hmm.
you are still your own business. I think Jay-Z said it best, right? I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman,
Mm-hmm.
which means that you, as the sales professional, have the opportunity to build your own personal brand. Because here's the thing, if you don't own that company, anything is possible. They could show up tomorrow and decide, guess what? We're closing the doors, everybody's being let go. And
Mm.
as a sales professional, that means, guess what? You got to go find a new opportunity.
Mm.
Here's what I know about folks in that situation. If you've built a strong brand, people know you, they like you, and they trust you. It doesn't matter what you're selling. People will refer you business just on the fact that they already know, like, and trust you from previous experience. Now, you may have to gain some more experience for that level of trust to rise, right? If you were to go from, hey, I used to sell roofs to now I'm selling real estate.
Yeah.
Okay, well, hold on. I'm going to need a minute before I trust you to be a real estate professional because it takes a little time. However, I'm still more likely to give you that chance just based on having had positive previous experiences.
So
Hopefully
you're
that makes
saying that
sense.
you're saying if a person, I said that person is, but this is another thing too, like when you're a sales pro, chances are, especially depending on where you are in your journey, let's say you haven't found your niche, your place to be, more than likely you're switching not only offers, but even industries and stuff like that. So what are you building the personal brand on at that time?
So I think the personal brand is built on core values,
Okay.
customer service, and people vouching for the fact that, hey, I did do business with this person and I had a good experience.
Okay.
And that I think is why, you were mentioning having, do you need a personal page? Do you need a business page?
Right.
Yes, you need both. You need a
Okay.
personal page on social media because personal profiles are what you can actually leverage to get the most exposure
Mm-hmm.
without having to pay these platforms for it. When
Mm-hmm.
you start using a business page, it is very much a pay to play game.
I see what you're
So
saying.
you're leveraging the free resources on those business page like Google reviews or Facebook reviews so that
Mm-hmm.
people can share their experience, and also you don't have to keep paying to get that exposure. If
You're
you
talking about
decide
organic
to
marketing in this
start,
case, right?
yes, and organic marketing is the best way because again, like I was when I was a young sales pro, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the money to invest in a marketing plan. I was
Right.
just trying to figure out how to generate my own leads like by having organic conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a great place to start. And this is what I'm saying. When you have enough organic conversations, and you build a relationship with someone and you get to that point where you're like, hey, listen, tell me about yourself. And they give you their story and you share your story and you're just pinpointing things for like, okay, they said this. So is this product or service that I offer a good fit for that thing? Can it provide value to this individual? So you're pre-qualifying them through the conversation. In doing so, you're building rapport with them. And essentially you get to that point where it's hey, sounds like I have a product or a service that could be a huge benefit for what you're telling me. If you'd be open to it, I'd love to tell you about it. Or B, hey man, this is what I do as a product or service. It doesn't sound like you need it, which is cool. I don't want to hard pitch you on it. However, if there's someone that you do know who may need it, keep me in mind, man. I'd love to help them.
So we're talking about, so it almost sounds, we're talking about being a business and a sales pro. So like on the one hand, I think Moose was talking about this on a previous interview, which talked about being able to upsell and cross-sell, right? So there is this idea of, yes, I'm building my personal brand on my results, showing how I'm taking care of people, things like that. So advocating myself and the services that I offer, which in this case will be selling and closing. But then there's the opposite end of like, I'm now associated with other things, maybe in addition to the offer I'm doing, I'm creating content around that and driving these conversations into DM, and then allowing that to be my opportunity to now maybe provide an additional service or product in addition to what I'm already doing. Yes.
This translated so perfectly into what I wanted to touch on, because this is the trifecta for sales. To be successful, you have to be great at selling. That's step one. Like a sales professional has to be able to sell.
Yeah.
Boom.
Cook
then you got to learn.
Man.
Yeah, cook got to cook. But then you got to learn marketing. So like as a cook, now where do I go and get my produce? Where am I getting all of my materials? How am I generating, this opportunity of things to cook? Okay, but then the last part is the network, because you can cook a great meal, but if you don't have people to serve it to, what's the point? Yeah, you can feed yourself. That's awesome. But when you really start progressing, you start feeding everyone else. So when you're a great closer who's got marketing dialed in and you've got a strong network, you become invincible, because every conversation is now an opportunity. Hey, if I don't have the product or service that you need, it's likely that I know the guy who does. And so I'm going to pass you to that individual who can provide you what you need in this moment. And also on the idea that if everything goes smoothly, as like I believe it will, you will then be further along the line and potentially in the future now in a position where you want to utilize my product or service. And so a great example of this is if I was a real estate agent and I'm having conversations with people and their credit's just not good enough at the moment, I'm going to go build a relationship with a credit repair guy. And so that I can have a conversation and say, all right, Mr. Prospect, here's where you're at. Here's the house you want. Here's the credit score you're going to need to make that a reality. And here's the guy who can make that happen for you, so that once this is done, you and I can finish this transaction.
So what you're talking about is building an ecosystem around whatever product or service, even if that is your own. So like with a lot of you guys who are in the sales, who are doing sales and selling, you might need to be connecting with marketers and copywriters and videographers, right? And digital social media managers, etc. Because guess what? You're going to enter into an agreement with a company, and guess what may happen? They may find themselves, you may go into the office and be like, this would be a lot better if they had better marketing. Or this would be a lot better if they had more social media presence, or if their emails were a little bit better. You're going to pick up on these things, and guess what's going to happen if you're good at your job and you make that recommendation? Now there's an opportunity for you to get paid a different kind of, what is the word I want to use? Like a different kind of fee, or paid differently, as opposed to just being able to exchange your time. Powerful point, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, it's one of those things where I try to train people to understand that we are problem solvers. As a sales professional, our job is to solve problems, and the best of us know how to solve that problem, whether it's our product or service or not. We know that that's the problem. Here's the next step for you to solve that problem, so that we can progress and keep moving forward, because that's all we're doing. We're just building a ramp over whatever the current roadblock is in the conversation or in that transaction. And the better you get at building ramps, the faster you can help that individual get to their end goal, which is ultimately the thing that they want or the thing that they want to get away from. Right?
Yes.
Because you're buying for
Yes.
pain or to get out of pain or to get into pleasure. That's usually the decision-making process, fight or
Yes.
flight. And so you have to just make that really easy for the individual, and solving problems, building ramps over those roadblocks. That's the best way to go about it.
Now in your book, your social media book, but even just watching you in real life in the jungle of the online world, right? I imagine that you get contacted by hundreds of people a day, thousands maybe. I don't know, but it's like,
Not necessarily thousands, but I don't want that many either. 100 a day, maybe, handful here and there. That's consistency is important. And this is something I say a lot too about like social media and scaling, is that you have to build the proper infrastructure or you're setting
okay,
yourself up for failure. Because
how do you
ultimately
mean by infrastructure?
what I know right now is that for the majority of business owners, sales professionals, entrepreneurs, if I were to walk into your business right now
Hmm.
and it was me and 99 of my friends with our credit card out that said, we want to do business with you, the
Hmm.
majority of people would crumble. They
Hmm.
don't have the fulfillment and the back end to deliver the product or service at that scale, which
Hmm.
is why it doesn't make sense for people to try to scale as fast as everyone tells them they need to
I
scale.
see.
You need to build consistency, because what happens if all 100 of us pay you and then you can't deliver on that product or service? Well, we're all going to leave negative reviews and nobody's going to want to tell their friends or family about you. And so now, even if you made a lot of money on that first transaction or handful of them, you're not going to have repeat business.
Yes.
And if you're constantly chasing new clientele, it's going to be really difficult, and really it's what you burn out on, because repeat customers is the lifeblood of a successful business,
So what
in
you're
my
talking about in
opinion.
terms of infrastructure is building systems and processes that work efficiently to kind of navigate the individual problems that you see, correct?
Correct.
What are what are some of the core systems that you have in place in your business now? But specifically around like working with the DMs. Because like what I find sometimes is like I know you know who JD Daly is, right?
Mhm.
Um one of the challenges that I keep running into is that networking is important. But if you're not careful, you'll spend your entire day like either answering requests or like doing 20-minute Zooms.
You
Right.
ain't lying.
So like how do you navigate that? Like how do you manage, still being able to make these connections and networks with people while at the same time not spending your entire life, hey, you want to jump on a 20 minutes? How do you deal with that?
So I'll talk about that in my third book, Call the Damn Leads. That's so
By the
fun.
by the
This
way, have
is
you sent mine out yet?
It's in the mail, brother. I
Okay, good.
apologize. We were waiting on the delivery. So, man, that feels funny to be able to be like, and on my third book. Because PR, well, you've known me since I launched the first one, man. So it's been
Yes.
wild to have people like yourself that have been watching and supporting for so long. So like, let me tell you how much I appreciate that, first of all.
I think I've already
Um,
bought everything.
you're the
Almost
man.
everything.
You're the man. Um, And so when it comes back to the question though, how do I manage to do it all and not like spend all of my time doing things that do nothing? The first question you have to ask yourself is, what is your time worth? And
Mm,
that's a big thing that I've had to go through,
mm,
especially on my personal journey over the years, but
mm.
professionally as well. What is your time worth? When I was selling insurance and I started building my own funnels, I had a woman reach out to me named Nancy. And Nancy's like, hey, Drewbie, I see that you're having some success with these funnels, these landing pages. And I'm just curious, how much for an hour of your time to hop on a call and help me figure this out? Because I got some
That is
questions.
an interesting question.
Bro,
That's an
it is
interesting
one
question.
of the most humbling questions when you really take it to heart, because here's what I
Yes.
started doing.
Wow.
I started asking myself, well, how much is my time worth? If I
Yes.
make $1,500 a month base salary, and
Mm,
I typically make, an extra $1,500 a month or so in commissions, I make
mhm,
3 grand a month. And if I work 40 hours a month, what does that break down to? I think it's like,
mhm,
$25 or something. It's not a lot of money.
mhm.
And I was like, well, all right, if I make 25 bucks in a day, if I was working overtime, they'd pay me I'd get double time, right? So like that's
Mhm.
$50. And I'm in my head doing this math really quick, trying to figure out like what to tell this lady while she's waiting.
I
I'm like, all right,
see.
well, how about, I don't know, give me $50. And God love Nancy. She's like, I'm gonna give you 75. I was like, well, of course, yeah,
Okay, I'll
75.
take the
That's
75. Thank you.
of course, yeah, yeah. So, I get on the call with her, I spend an hour on Zoom or whatever. She sends me a Venmo for 75 bucks. And
Mm.
I'll never forget reaching out to my wife and being like, babe, I
Mm.
need to do like 2, 3 of these calls a day, and then I can totally quit insurance and I'd be freaking set. Like, how do I do that? Like, what the heck? I've been grinding, cold calling, dealing. How do I just do some of that more? And
Yes.
she's like, I don't know, babe, but you got to figure that out. That's awesome.
Right, right, right.
And so fast forward over the years, like I built the marketing company. I've learned a lot about my time being, very valuable. Here's what the
Yes.
formula I always give when I do my keynote.
Okay.
I want you to take whatever you made last year, all in
Mhm.
total, from your regular job, your side hustles, the spicy website accounts that you might have that we don't talk about publicly, like whatever, man. I'm not judging. Hustle's got to hustle. But like add all of that up, right? And put all that together. And then I need you to divide that number by 2,000. So the reason I say 2,000 is if you worked a normal job, 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year with a 2-week vacation, right? You'd work about 2,000 hours every year. So if you
Mhm.
made 100 grand last year and you
Mhm.
divided that by 2,000 hours, your time is worth $50 an hour.
Mhm.
Okay,
So
that's
10
great.
income. So total income
Total
from all the
income
sources divided
from all
by 2000.
sources divided by 2,000
Mhm.
equals your current hourly rate.
Okay.
And so for some of us that grew up in the streets or like, making $10 an hour doing grunt labor, $50 an hour is pretty sweet. At
Mhm.
one point I didn't think I was ever going to make more than 30 grand a year. So like when I was like, all
Wow.
right, 100 grand, that's dope. But here's where it really gets messed up.
Mhm.
If I throw a hood on and I grab my little scythe and I come knocking on your door and I'm like, guess what? I'm death. You have
I see
24
what you're saying.
hours to live. Here's $50. I need you for an hour.
Mhm.
What kind of response you going to give me, Pierre?
First of all, I said, are you trying to rob me or kill me, man?
Hey, 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 you got 24 hours. Here's $50 because that's all you value your time at. It's going to
Can't do
hit
it,
hard,
man.
right? You're like,
Yeah.
no, 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 hold on, hold on.
No,
Now,
24 hours, $50 now.
the caveat is there is a number. At a certain
Yes.
point,
Mm.
you're going to go and do whatever you got to do during that 1 hour to get that amount of money because that money is a tool or a resource that you use to get the things that you want in life.
Mm.
Okay. So it's important to understand that. Go
So you're
ahead.
essentially evaluating, you're essentially evaluating every conversation, every interaction, every DM by this number, yes?
Yes, because here's where this is the next portion of this. And this
Okay.
is where the 4 6s strategy. This is like literally step one in my book to be successful in sales is understanding this process right here.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you understand what your time is worth, hey, it's worth $50 an hour, $100 an hour, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to decide how and where you want to spend it. And so when you look at a day, and most of us, we've, entrepreneurs, we listen to Gary Vee yelling, you got 18 hours in a day. And you got, Arnold Schwarzenegger's like, you sleep 6 hours,
Sleep
you just
faster.
sleep faster. You know what I mean? Yeah, we've all heard that. And
I love
so
that.
that we can all agree there's 24 hours in a day. And in my life, there are a few things that are really, really important. And I think a lot of people resonate with this because I usually, if people read the first chapter or two, they love this and they hit me up. But here's what the 4 6s looks like. In life, there are a few things that matter a lot. Number one is sleep. If you've ever gone 48 hours or 72 hours on a bender and done some wild stuff where you've been up for 3 straight days, like it's not a good look. You don't operate well. Everyone knows that we got to get our beauty sleep. And so sleep is the number one most important thing on this list for time because it literally is like
Yes.
1/3 of your life and you have to do it. It's non-negotiable. So we got sleep number one. And then most of us, we're always talking about how our family, our legacy is the most important thing. My why, right? I'm here for my family, my legacy. This is important to me. And that's awesome. I'm here for that. Not everybody loves family, but like your relationships, there are things that are important to you. So we have sleep, we have family and relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have our business, because the majority of us don't have FU money yet to where we can just do whatever we want whenever we want. We still work. That's why we're listening to these shows, to learn and grow.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have ourselves. We
Mm-hmm.
put ourselves last. We're always selfless. We always give to everybody else. And what happens there? You get burnt out, you get out of shape. And what's funny is, if you've ever been on an airplane, Pierre, you know the first thing they tell you is that in the
Gotta
case
put
of
on
an
your back first.
emergency, you have to put your own oxygen mask on first.
Right.
Because if you don't, you're going to be a burden to everyone else around you. You cannot help others if you cannot help yourself. So it was
Yes.
so interesting to me how, when I realized that I was putting all of these other things at the forefront and not making sure that I was the best version of me to be
Mm-hmm.
the best version for everyone else that needed me, everything started shifting. So
Wow.
if you look at 24 hours in a day, 4 areas of life that are important, you can spend 6 hours on sleep,
Mm-hmm.
6 hours on yourself, 6 hours on your family, and 6 hours on your business. And people are like, well, how can you get anything done in that amount of time, Drewbie? Well, guess what? If you ever spent 6 hours laying in bed with your spouse doing things that are inappropriate, you can have a lot of fun and do a lot of stuff in 6 hours. I don't know what you do with the other 5 hours and 59 minutes, but cuddle, eat, do whatever you do. Right. But like, intentional time spent can get a lot of things done. If you've ever spent 6 hours
I think
focused on
that's
a
important.
project,
Intentional. Mm-hmm.
yes, you know you can get a lot done. So what if you
Yes.
just woke up every day and you're like, hey, I'm going to be very intentional with my time. And I
Mm-hmm.
know that in order to live a balanced life, I need to spend 6 hours sleeping, 6 hours working, 6 hours with my family, and 6 hours taking care of myself.
Yes. Yes. Do you have I like the idea of that you set aside both sleep, business, and family, because there are some cases where, yes, in hustle culture, which is like, sacrifice everything, burn all the boats. Okay, nothing is more important than money. Okay, and it's like I understand that there may be prioritizations at certain points, but like there still must be an even. I think I was reading "Be Obsessed to Be Average" by Cardone, and
Mhm.
he talked about. He said it is. He said you should have the desire to want everything to work, not just one individual area. All of your areas should be able to be working, taken care of, and I think it's something I think that a lot of people don't catch on to. So, what are some you talked about infrastructure a bit earlier, right? So, like, what are some primary systems and processes that every salesperson should be having in their arsenal of that business?
Your calendar should run your day. That
Okay.
is the number one thing that you should be utilizing. The A tool for everything is your calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's what I know. If I wake up and I have the freedom to do whatever it is that I want throughout the day, guess what I'm going to do? Whatever the fuck I want throughout the day. However, if I wake up and I look at my calendar and the first thing on it is to read and to meditate, it's like, all right, well, let me go read and meditate. Let me get that done. And
Mm-hmm.
then the next thing after that is to go and do a workout and move my fat ass. Well, all right, I guess I'm going to go and do that. And here's what happens, Pierre, is as I start checking things off the list, I start feeling more accomplished. And I'm like,
Yes.
all right, well, that's done. That feels
Yes.
good. All right, that's done. That feels good. All right, that's done. That feels good. And I get these little dopamine rushes and
Mm-hmm.
these little hits of accomplishment, and I'm winning all day. And it's these little wins. It's like, all right, well, first thing I needed to do was read 3 pages from each of these books. All right, done. All right, that feels good. And
Mm-hmm.
what happens is you start to build this routine and your body starts looking for those things. And if you don't do them,
Yes.
well, that's a problem. So for
Yes.
me, going back to time management, if I know I need to spend 6 hours on me, six
Mm-hmm.
hours on my business, and 6 hours with my family, well, then I'm going to have to plan that out. Because what
Yes.
if I need to travel? What if I need to go poop? What if what if I want to eat lunch? Like, all
You're
of
not
these things
scheduling poop
take
on the
time.
calendar, are you?
No, I don't. Listen, bro, I poop like 4 times every morning. I think my body's messed up. It just like collects all day and then just dumps right before my workout, which is good because I don't want to be
Passive
carrying
unloading,
that
right?
around. Hey,
Massive
well,
unloaded, right?
speak to a health professional, get your hormones, get your things dialed in. Like the peak efficiency is important. But that to me is the number one thing, your calendar. If you put it on the calendar and you do it, whether you get the result or want or not is to be determined, but
Yes.
you'll have done it and you can learn from it and you can grow and you can keep getting better. But if you never take action and you never do the thing, guess what? You're never going to get a result.
One of my favorite, I was listening to, speaking of like one with the calendar, we're kind of continue with the systems and processes. I remember Tim Ferriss was talking to a guy, I forgot his name right now, but what he did was he said, I don't believe in to-do lists. He said, what I do is, he said, I take whatever it is that I'm supposed to be doing, like let's say my email in this case, I'll take my email and instead of creating a to-do list, I have it side by side with my calendar. And I'll schedule the activity directly into the calendar. He said, because what happens with a lot of people is that they underestimate how much time, they overestimate how much time they have in a day. And so being able to look at your calendar side by side and then able to, okay, so let's say I have to write this email for this campaign. Okay, where can I reasonably fit this task in this scope of my day? Is it possible to fit it in this day? Does it have to be moved to another day? Did I underestimate how much time that activity was going to take? And if so, depending upon what I have to do then, will determine where it's going to go on the calendar. So I think it's really, really good. Calendars for service-based businesses like God. It's a powerful, powerful tool.
Well, here's the thing too, though, Pierre, is you have to respect your time or no one
Yes.
else is going to respect it.
Yes.
And creating boundaries is the other side of this that's really important because you can have a great calendar, but if you don't have a good boundary system in place to protect your time,
Mhm.
it's going to be for nothing. And so having that side by side is beautiful because now you get to prioritize where does it fit? Is it a non-negotiable needs to be done right now? Is it a need but not a want? Or is it a want? And it's like, all right, well, non-negotiable means it's non-negotiable. That has to get done. Need
Yes.
to get done is like, all right, well, this needs to get done. So we probably could do that first. And then if you want to do something, you can do that. And here's what's crazy is that a lot of people, when I start explaining, like, use your calendar as the tool, let this be your boss, they
Mhm.
go, well, how am I ever going to get to have any fun? How am I going to get to do anything? Well, guess what? You put it on the calendar. You schedule in there. Hey, I'm playing golf on Saturday morning. I need 4 hours, bro. Well, okay, it's on the calendar. Go play golf. And while you're there, play golf, have fun, do the thing.
Be
But
fully
when you're
present there.
done,
Hmm.
yes, know that, hey, I got to go back and I got 2 hours worth of work to do when I get out of
Yes.
here. And I have the benefit of getting to choose the life that I want and build a designed life for success in my own version, so long as I'm continuously working to make sure my skill set in the marketplace warrants enough income to go and live that life continuously.
Yes. Yes.
Sustainable success.
So calendars is one. What else?
Calendars, a CRM. If you don't have a
CRM.
database and you're not organizing your leads, then you're losing opportunity. And being consistent with that is really, really important. I think that's something that most people are not doing a great job of, and why Call the Damn Leads has a back end to that. And we're building out a system that's easy to roll out and install for people because most of the times you don't know what you don't know. And when
Yes.
you go to a sales training, they just teach you how to sell stuff. They don't teach you
Yes.
how to follow up. They don't teach you any of the back end systems and processes that are important.
Hmm.
And so, unless you're naturally a very organized person, a CRM is an incredible tool to help you buy back your time to stay more organized and get in front of more prospects.
So you're talking about a CRM not just for the business, but for you as a sales pro, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think every sales pro should have their own CRM of sorts
Really?
that they're using to organize opportunity. Because here's what happens. What if you are sending referrals? What if you're, creating opportunity in other areas where you're trying to build that growth? Well, if you're not
Sound like when you
tracking it,
self-generate, right?
yeah, absolutely. If I'm self-generating and I'm talking to someone, I need to track that conversation because
Mm.
maybe they don't need my product or service. Maybe I've referred them to a friend or a
I
family
see.
member. And so now it's like, all right, well, I want to check in on that conversation. I want to see how that went because if I sent them to someone, and I just shared this meme the other day, it was like me holding a shotgun and it's like, I just want to talk to him. It was Peter Griffin holding it. It's like, I just want to talk to him. It was like when I send a referral and find out that that person never called them back. It's like if I sent you a referral and you didn't call the damn leads, we're gonna rest. It's gonna be a problem. And so to me, I think it's important to track that information.
That's
And what
interesting.
also happens, maybe you're with a company, maybe you've been there for 5 years and you're the top producer and you've done millions and millions of dollars of sales for them and you've built amazing relationships. And guess what?
Mhm.
They decide that they don't want to pay you anymore and that you're out the door. Well, what happens to all that information that you've been putting into that CRM if you didn't save it for
That is
yourself?
powerful. That's powerful. I never thought about that. Having your own CRM for like upsells and referrals, and I never thought about that. That's really good, man. That's really
Yes,
good. What
sir.
else is there? So the calendar is one
Um,
CRM.
Calendar, CRM, and I think on top of that is making sure that you have I mean, as far as a tool goes,
Mhm.
I mean, having high quality equipment that you can utilize to have conversations, right? I'm not
Yeah.
saying that you have to buy the nicest of everything, but you should have stuff that works. You should have a
Yes.
microphone that's clear. You should have a camera that's easy to see. Your phone, your fitness needs to be dialed in. And here's the thing, man, if you look good and you feel good, you're going to sell good. And I
Very
hate to
good.
say it, but people are very judgmental. And when you look at someone, you're making a snap judgment. You're going to learn about that in social media mastery, right? Part of
Mhm.
the networking aspect of sales is you walk in and you meet someone and you look them up and down and you make a snap decision. Hey, is this someone that's actually committed? Are they healthy? Are they putting in the work? Do they dress well? Do they take care of themselves? Is their hygiene on point? Does their breath stink? Is
Mhm.
this someone that I could actually have a be seen in public with and have a relationship with? This shit all matters, man. It sounds
No secret
crazy, but
those
it
around here, man.
all hey, it all matters, bro. And so when you start thinking about this from the intentionality of I want to stand out and be attractive to the kind of individuals I know that I can help with my product or service, being a little more intentional with that makes a big deal.
You talked about that success. I think it kind of boils into your idea of like success is equal to perspective, right?
Correct.
Now, within your Call the Damn Leads course, you talked about 3 books that you use in the morning, I believe, specifically for the purpose of kind of setting this intention of, right. What are they called?
This is Leadership Promises for Every Day by John C. Maxwell, The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday,
Mhm.
and The Daily Laws by Robert Greene. So a lot of these are more stoic in thinking. They're a little bit higher level of creating good for the community. And for me, what I've realized now that I'm operating in more of a one-to-many mindset, it's important to think about how we're creating content, how we're sharing, how we're communicating so that it comes across to each individual in their current season, because everyone is at a different point in their life. And when I'm thinking about success being a perspective, if I'm going to help you reach your version of it, I need to be able to help you know what that is. And more importantly, I need to be able to relate with you where you are currently in that journey so that I can help you progress down the path. Same thing with sales, right? I have to have a conversation with you so that I can understand where you are at in this process so that I can help progress you. It's like straight line system with Jordan Belfort, right?
Yes.
You got to know where they're at and you got to take them down the straight line to get to the close.
Yes.
Sometimes you get a little off track, but then you're able to repivot them and get them back on the straight line, which is from point A to point B, where they are now to where they want to be at the end of the process.
Did you get into? I know when in your bio you talked about actually losing. Then you went from I think it was like 300 pounds to like 100 something like that, right? Oh, you lost all something like that, right? What was it?
I lost over 100 pounds, no fad diets, no weight loss drugs, nothing like that. Just good old fashioned hard work. I put it all back on and then I lost it again. So I've done it more
Wow.
than once in my life.
Did
And at
you
this point, it's been important.
did you study stoicism back then, or like how did you get into stoicism?
To what now? The
How'd
selling
you get into
system?
how'd you get into stoicism?
Oh, stoicism. I've just always kind of thought on like a bigger mindset. And also I did a lot of psychedelics as a kid. So I've kind of
Is that right?
explored, that the outer universe of things and just kind of being like on that higher level,
Yes.
literally. And so that's just kind of one of those things that I don't know, has been important to me in my life and my journey.
I want you to like my last question here. I want you to speak to someone who's in the period of their journey where they're trying to become preeminent, they're trying to become top of mind, they're trying to be in a position where they can be like a Drewbie Wilson, writing their own books, charging premium for their time, being able to help a lot of people in a short amount of time. And I want you to encourage them and tell them some things, give them some advice on how to get to where you need to be.
Trust the process. This is the hardest thing, is that anyone that you've seen who seems to have blown up and be successful overnight, they've been doing the same mundane things for years and years and years. And I've had a lot of experience with people who I've seen become very successful overnight and then lose a lot of it very quickly because, again, they didn't have the infrastructure, they didn't have those things in place. And so trusting the process, going through and just understanding that where you are now is a testament to what you're capable of, and where you're going to be as you continue to make new decisions and take new actions is whatever you want it to be. It's getting clarity on, all right, I want to have X amount of things in my life. It's not about a dollar amount. It's about, what is it that you want? What kind of car do you want to drive? What kind of house do you want to have? Do you want to live in a fifth wheel trailer and travel around the country with your family? Like, what's going to bring you fulfillment and joy? Do those things and then build a life around that. It's like, all right, well, for me, we used to work in a corporate building and I used to have a business, and it was like, all right, well, I want to be able to travel. I want to go around. So now it's like I'm building Call the Damn Leads in a way that allows me to travel. It allows me to go out and serve more people, because this is the life that I want to live. This is my version of success. So once you can help them get clear and help, the listener right now, I hope they're hearing this, is, what do you want? You can have it if you're willing to do the work. Wherever it is, you just got to reverse engineer the steps to make it happen. So if you want to have a big house and a fancy car, well, all right, you're going to have to make the money to be able to pay for those things. So what service, what product, what thing can you do to go and create a skill set or an asset that will pay for the things that you want in life? And then just keep building that over and over and over.
Powerful, man. Powerful, man. Thank you so much, Drew, man. Of
course.
This has been an amazing podcast for me. I mean, and I think that when I decided to do this podcast with you, my friend, I was like, oh my God, it's gonna be with Drewbie Wilson. What am I do? No. I'm just teasing, man. I'm just teasing. Listen, man, thank you again for being here. Guys, I hope that you've gotten as much value out of this as I have. And I want you to remember that being mediocre only scales incrementally. But being preeminent, being top of mind, being the force of nature that you're meant to be, scales exponentially. So you get to choose. Do you want to be incremental this year, or do you want to be exponential this year? The choice is yours. And I'll see you the next time.